Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about Deluxe Galaga.
Very nice.
Now,
nice.
Aaron, how do you feel when people come to you? When they come to you, obviously you are, late in life now.
Would you stop that?
They tell you that you've been pronouncing words wrong related to video games. For example, Tate mode. Everybody knows it's Tate mode until some namby-pamby know-it-all comes around and says, no, it's Tate mode.
The guys over at Pixelgate and Tate.
So what do you think about the real pronunciation of Galaga as Galaga?
I'll be honest with you. I always called it Galaga. However, occasionally I'll slip into Galaga. And part of the reason is the Coco, the rip-off version of Galaga, it's got a name that's closely resembles Galaga. It's called Galago or something like that. So I think it sort of screwed me up. I don't know if there is a proper pronunciation of Galaga. I hope it's Galaga.
Well, I mean, it's just like with Gyrus, People come around, it's Gyrus your whole life, and then people say it's Guy R Us. That's the way it should be pronounced.
There's nobody that says that. Or Gyrus. That's no good. That's wrong. That can't be right, can it? Guy R Us? There's no period in there.
Where do you fall? I'm not even going to say it. Where do you fall on the Jordan Mechner karate game?
I call him Jordan Mechner. I think that's a good pronunciation.
No. Where do you? No, I'm talking about the name of the game.
Screwed with you. Karateka. And I'll hear something else. I listened to Adam. Adam covered Karateka on his show for Combo Chronicles, which did a great job, by the way. But he said the official pronunciation from Mechner himself is Karateka.
I've been saying it right all this time. Man. In your face, world. Affirmation, baby. Karateka. Bam.
Let me ask you. Okay, give me this for a minute, okay? Let's say your boat, you're in a void, and I'm there with you. And this game, we've never heard of Jordan Mechner. We've never heard his response. This game comes out, and they're like, the game is called this, and it spells it out, okay? Which sounds cooler, Karateka or Karateka? Which one sounds like a cooler sounding name for the game?
Karateka, man.
No, that's incorrect. See, that's where you lose.
The first time I ever saw this game was at my uncle's house. My uncle was a big Atari guy. Yeah. And so he had all the consoles. He even had the Jag. And when it was new, before it was cool.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember playing all the 7800 games and the 2600 games on the 7800. And I just remember seeing I was like Karateka. And I didn't even see the word karate in the title at all. I just thought Karateka.
That would explain it.
Yeah.
It's funny to think about this now because in the old days, you had no reference to these names.
Yeah.
You really didn't.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, movies, albums, band names, TVs, you didn't have it. You just caught it. It's like, I saw Karateka when it came out. I looked at the name, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, come up with something. Karateka? That's it. It doesn't matter if it's right.
Because there was no internet. You couldn't check yourself.
Yeah, you got nothing.
Yeah.
So I wrecked myself, effectively.
So, speaking of getting nothing, Aaron, let's talk about Deluxe Galaga. Night. All right, Aaron, fake out.
Man.
We're not going to Deluxe Galaga. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about where it all began with the original arcade game that inspired Deluxe Galaga, regular old Galaga, as it was known. This game.
Say that way. Old crappy Galaga.
That's right. This game came out in 1981, the same year I was born. And it was the sequel to Galaxian, which we will cover this year during the Summer of Arcade, so it's very pertinent. Galaxian was released in 79. It took them a couple of years to come out with a sequel. The game was produced by Namco. Namco, one of the big-time players in the golden age, and one of the few companies that survived the golden age into the modern day. They're still doing stuff now. You might recognize a couple of their titles: Rally X, King and Balloon, Dig Dug, and of course that little game we like to call Pac-Man. Namco was a big deal, and they were running hot and heavy. I would say Galaxian was their breakout hit. They had a couple games, GB and Bombi, which were kind of like pinball meets breakout games. But Galaxian is really what put them on the map. And then, when Pac-Man came out, that was sort of, a lot of companies, they would have just quit after Pac-Man and made Pac-Man sequels for the rest of time. But Namco, not one to rest on their laurels, continued all throughout the golden age. Aaron, do you have a favorite Namco game?
Well, oh boy, this would be it, I think. I mean, don't get me wrong, they had plenty of good games, and we're not even thinking about it. They had like effectively what the launch title was for the PlayStation back in the day. They have just a ton of games. But when I think of them, this is the game, and it's survived the ages to be super popular. It still is killing it now. But if you think about it, if you think about their early games, what was the Knights and Balloon, or where that one we
King
played? King and Balloon. And then think about going all the way forward to something like Ridge Racer or and still being around. I mean, they have covered the gambit. They have covered every corner of the arcade industry and the home industry. So it's nice that companies like this are still around, but you would expect a company that had this many quality titles to still be kicking at this point.
Yeah. Now I want to talk a little bit about 1981 in the arcade scene in general. 1981 was no slouch of a year. Okay, I'm going to read this list to you. Tell me, Aaron, if you've heard of any of these games.
All right, I'm ready.
Donkey Kong, Defender, Frogger, Tempest, Scramble, Gorf, Vanguard, Kicks. It's a pretty good lineup, Aaron. I'd call that a murderer's row if I was going to characterize that.
It's funny. I own 2 of those arcade machines. They're in my outbuilding right now. So that's just how much I like that year. Great year.
Yeah. So a fantastic year. And of course, Galaga, of all of those games, perhaps the game with the most staying power. This game was directed and planned out by Shigeru Yokoyama, who was also behind Bosconian and Dig Dug. You had Toru Ogawa, who was the principal programmer and hardware integrator. He later built the hardware for a game called Libble Rabble, which I don't know if that came to the United States or if that was a Japan-only release. And then he also served as a designer on Pac-Mania. The artist for this game was Hiroshi Ono. Hiroshi's nickname, by the way, was Mr. Dot Man, which is a great name for a sprite artist. He drew the visuals for Xevious and Mappy, as well as Galaga. And
Mappy's another great one. I love that game from Namco too. Yeah.
The sound on this game was Nobuyuki Onogi, and he went on to score pole position. A lot of people think of pole position as an Atari game, but it was actually, I believe, licensed from Namco to Atari and Mappy in 1983. And finally, Aaron, the hardware architect on this, he did the research and development board. This was Shigechi Ishimura. And he earlier engineered the boards for Pac-Man, and when he took over, when they bought that CGE Entertainment Ms. Pac-Man board, he went in and made the official release. So a lot of heavy hitters in the development team for Galaga and Namco. And again, it just shows you, the difference when you start getting into the early 80s with Japan development teams. You've got these career men who have, and I don't mean to be sexist, it was just they were all men at the time, that had, a fair amount of experience behind them at the time, and they were just hitting their stride with this stuff. So what was inside the arcade cabinet, Aaron? So you have a Galaga machine. In fact, why don't you get, a lot of people don't know this story. How did you end up with a Galaga machine in your arcade, Aaron?
Well, in case you haven't heard, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I worked in a place called Kanawha City, West Virginia, at a computer store. This has been about, now it's been about 17 years ago, Boat. And I had a buddy that worked up the road at a mental health facility, and which is funny because he probably should have been checked in. But anyways, I got a phone call. He goes, "Listen," he goes, "I know you're the arcade guy, and we just threw a Galaga in the dumpster." I was like, "I'll be there in less than a minute." And so I told my boss, because I happened to be driving my dad's black pickup truck at the time.
Yeah, I love that truck.
I hated that uncomfortable truck, but it did provide me with a way to move stuff from dumpster to dumpster. And so I said, "Boss, I got to go pick something up out of a dumpster. I'll be back. I'll make up the time." The boss knew it was important. He said, "Go." So I got there, and the place had one of those fence gimmicks,
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
They call those fences normally.
Right. Well, between me and the dumpster. But it
Mhm.
wasn't. It was pretty close to the dumpster. So believe it or not, much like Donkey Kong would, I scaled the fence.
Yeah.
And I pulled the Galaga out of the dumpster and stuck it in the back of my truck. No easy task, but it was like that episode of The Incredible Hulk. Like, remember the very first pilot episode where Bruce Banner, David Banner in the TV show, got that incredible strength because his wife was like dying? That's the same strength that I possessed.
Right.
As I got
when you see an arcade,
Galaga.
when you see an arcade machine in danger, you gain some sort of supernatural strength.
Also, my cheapness powers kicked in because I was like, "Hey, free Galaga." And so I threw this thing in the back of the truck. The only thing it didn't have was the back of the Galaga, and it didn't have the bar over the marquee. But otherwise, it was complete. That stuff could have been in there, but I was in a hurry. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I got it home. I took the board out of it, and I and so I took it home and plugged it in, and it came up, but the star field in it went the wrong way. It went like it went. I can't remember if it went up or sideways. It was real bizarre. So I took the board out and reseated all the chips and cleaned them, and it worked. And it works. And to this day, it's at my arcade. And the monitor needs recap, but even the monitor sort of worked. So yes, that's how I ended up with the Galaga in my collection. It's out in the arcade. Is it in the best shape? No, but it has a great story, and it's free.
And so you're familiar with the innards. For those of you that aren't, this game has a pair of 16-inch PCBs. The top CPU board does the logic, and the lower one drives the sprites and the tiles. This game runs 3 Zilog Z80 processors. It's got a 19-inch vertically mounted CRT. And the monitor runs at 288 by 224, so pretty low res by today's standards. But back in the day, that was as good as it got. This game has a custom wave shape generator for one of the Z80 chips. Does the sound, and it feeds a single 6x9 speaker behind the marquee, which gives it that great Galaga sound. The controls on this game, you've got a left-right 2-way joystick and a fire button. Pretty simple. Leaf switches. This was before micro switches became cool and people were happy with leaf switches. Plus, you've got those classic lit up start buttons. So that's what's inside the machine. I wanted to talk a little bit about the gameplay of this thing. Okay, so obviously, if you're familiar with any space shooter, you're familiar with Galaga. You steer and shoot from the bottom of the screen. You've got a ship that goes right and left, and your job is to destroy the descending alien ships before they collide with you, or the ships kind of come across the screen in formation. I don't know if they call them waves or if they're just levels, but you've got a certain formation of ships that take form at the beginning of a level, and you've got to knock them all out. There is a power-up that's unique to Galaga, or at least it was unique to Galaga when it came out. There's a certain kind of enemy that you can shoot, if you let's see. Explain how the power-up works, Aaron, because I'm having a hard time thinking about it.
Talking about the captured ship.
Right, the captured ship.
This was one of the key features that made Galaga rise above. There are capital ships at the top of the screen that will come down, and they will they deploy sort of a tractor beam. And if you're caught in a tractor beam, your ship gets sucked up and goes up to the top of the screen. That sounds bad. You lose a man, effectively. However, if you catch that guy coming down the screen and you can shoot him without shooting your own guy, your own ship, then your ship is freed, and it doubles your ship up. So you've got a double ship, and you got twice the firepower, and also it makes you double cool as you go and start whooping that brain. This is how you get the big scores in Galaga, the double ship. So you really have to sort of let yourself get captured right away so you can get the double ship.
And every fourth stage in Galaga, there is something called the challenging stage. And I don't know if this is the first bonus stage in video game history, but I can't think the one before it. And this is a stage where the ships still come at you, but they do not fire. You can go to town without fear, and you get bonus points based on how many of the ships you manage to destroy. So that's a little bit of the gameplay of Galaga. This game sold pretty well, Aaron. This game sold the number of units sold I could find according to the video game sales wiki. 42,500 dedicated cabinets sold. That's a staggering amount of cabinets.
And that's not even counting the re-release when they doubled it up with Miss Pac-Man, and they released it again, and so got on. And now I see this. If you go to the for example, down at Dave & Buster's, they've got the monster version of this game that you can play on the ultra screen. It takes up it's a 2-story wall of Galaga. The Chud. I thought I was got to get some sort of resuscitation device the first time we saw that. Yeah, it was like he died and went to heaven. So Galaga, not only is it still earning, but they're still making new things with the properties. I got the Chud for Christmas a couple years ago. I got my desktop Galaga. That's awesome. I mean, so this thing, they're still marketing and selling Galaga, the gameplay, the likenesses, the whole 9 yards.
Right. This is a stat that floored me, Aaron, because I can't think of another video game that did this. So Replay Magazine kept this on they had a list called the top dedicated arcade video list. This was on that for 62 straight months. This was on from 1981 through 1987. Galaga was on there. I mean, that's an unbelievable stat. But
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, but it bears out because just like I'm sure you were about to say, I can't think of another video game, with the exception of Ms. Pac-Man, that you can still find original arcade units on location to this day.
Yeah. This, in fact, I would say this has surpassed Miss Pac-Man, but Miss Pac-Man's in that ballpark when it comes to these games. I mean, this is a game that it's always been an earner, and if you look, I'm going to wax philosophical for a minute, but if you look at what Namco did, because we play, like you said, Galaxian's a game I'm quite familiar with. And Namco ramped up from the concepts behind Space Invaders to produce Galaxy, which was a step in the right direction. It had descending aliens, it had more action, then it had more color. It had color, for example, and it was a fun game. But Galaga is the natural progression for the genius behind what they were doing. Because what does this have? This has faster, more fluid action. This has better speed. This has more flamboyant, more standout graphical. They know how to use color in these machines. They also stuck in the double ship gimmick. They improved every aspect of Galaxian to come up with Galaga. And, I mean, even if you think about the little call-outs, the little tunes that play, I mean, I could think of all of them, and I've got them all memorized. I've heard them millions of times. Even the little sound effects have been used and ripped off and used in TV shows and movies. It's all been taken and used over and over. It was so iconic because it was so great. That's what made it so iconic. It's not like they just lucked into it. Like, this thing was built from the ground up to be a success. And if you look at the games that come after it, and with all due respect to our buddies over at Pixel Gaiden, who they don't like Galaga, they like Galaga 88. They're wrong. They never improved on this game in the arcade. Because it was what made it great partially was the purity of the concept. You didn't need to add a bunch of extra crap. It was already there. That's why this game was such a big success, a legendary title.
Yeah. So Aaron, tell me about your first experience with Galaga in the arcade.
Oh God, it's hard to remember. At 81, I was 10, so that's way back. as long as I can remember walking in the arcades, Galaxian and Galaga were there. I mean, not at the same time, but they were both there. And I saw Galaxy. I mean, I remember delivering pizza, and tons of places had Galaga on location in the '90s. I mean, I saw it plenty of times, and I would go to arcades, little arcades that would start up, or bowling alleys, and this game was omnipresent. But when I first played it, this is a game I was not very good at, much like Galaxian, and it's a game I didn't get any good at until years later. Really, I didn't have that much interest in it until I met Chad. But Chad's the king; he's a king dong of Galaga here, Galaga. And so once he started playing it, I had to at least dip my toe in the pool to try to learn some of the concepts he showed me about playing it. But so really running into him was what really got me into it. But picking one up, obviously for free, was an easy choice. But even if I didn't get it for free, it's one you'd want to have in your collection, because one thing I've noticed over the years is that's the one game I go to arcade parties and stuff that everyone gravitates toward. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows how to play it. There's nothing complicated about it. Pac-Man's the same way. I mean, more like I said, Miss Pac-Man more than Pac-Man, but it's the same thing. It doesn't take. It's not like you played Tempest or Defender, where you're just like, what am I doing? Like, this game is straightforward, and it's very popular. So it's been around for years and years and years. That seems like everywhere I go, all my friends that had arcades at home, they almost all have this game.
Yeah, yeah. The first time I saw this game was at the old skate arena. I remember there were there were two arcade machines and a pinball machine there. There was a pinball machine called Golden Arrow, which was like a Native American themed pinball machine. It was an EM. And then they had a RoboCop on the other side near the Spock mural. And that was on the right. And then they had a Galaga that was directly across, although it was way across from the skate arena, from the Golden Arrow. And I remember the first time that I saw that, I was coming from, I had an NES at the time, but I'd played Space Invaders on the Atari. That was really the only space shooter that I played up until that point. And I was floored by the starfield, just the starfield, the way that it had scrolling stars that twinkled. I'd sit there and watch the attract mode. To me, that was really impressive. That was really cool. So this game, I loved this game from the get-go. I'm still not very good at it, but I love how colorful it is. I love the sounds. I love just the whole atmosphere of the game is fantastic. So,
and the machine itself, it's got great art. I mean, the art on it. By the way, I know a lot of ladies that play this too, so there's definitely cross appeal. But it's got a great marquee. It's super stylized. It looks like something from Psygnosis, like that predates it. I mean, it's so cool looking. It's got cool side art, and it had kick art, which was cool. You didn't always see kick art back in the day. So they had really done a great job with the cab. That also, of course, you could get the cocktail version of this too. So like they ran the gambit on this bad boy. They made it look real appealing.
Now I've got a couple fun facts for you, Aaron, that you might not know about Galaga. The first one is that Midway shipped an optional rapid fire daughter board for Galaga that you could buy from them that operators could install. Did you ever play an enhanced Galaga with rapid fire?
Oh, boy, I'll tell you, I played in the back of my head, I want to say yes, but I don't directly remember it. I did see a lot of Miss Pac-Mans that had the turbo button. That I saw plenty of. But I don't remember that much rapid fire because, I mean, to be honest with you, you can fire pretty fast. I don't know how much faster they can make it. But no, I don't know if I ever saw that or not, Bode. That's interesting.
The next thing is the current high score of Galaga is 20,980,450 points.
God,
this was set
forever.
You're right. This was set by Jordan Dorrington in February 2020 after roughly 14 hours of play with just 3 ships on standard difficulty.
God, because I watched Chad get 100,000 on this, and you're talking a half hour or something like that. So I mean, that's amazing. That's an amazing score.
Yeah, Buck Owens in the chat points out that he's from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So Big ups to Iowa for representing the Galaga community.
Hey, one thing I want to mention real quick, Boat, since somebody asked in the chat. When I mentioned kick art is art that is on the front of the machine but under the coin door. It's called kick art because a lot of people would kick the tar out of it.
Well, that piece of the arcade machine is called the kick plate.
Yeah.
So, and then the final piece, and this one stunned me. I had to double check this one from various sources to make sure it was actually true. In 2019, paleontologists christened an extinct Cretaceous shark Galagdon norsiquitae because its tiny serrated teeth looked like Galaga aliens. And that's a shoot. That's
awesome. I love that. It's crept into science. That's the way it should be, Boat. I love it.
So anyway, there's a little rundown of the original Galaga arcade machine, but we're not here to talk about Galaga, although it may seem like we are. We're here to talk about Deluxe Galaga, Aaron. Let's get into it.
All right. So, Deluxe Galaga, I would assume most of the people listening here are pretty familiar with Amiga games. And I'd say I can say without hesitation that this is one of the more highly decorated titles on the Amiga. I want to talk, before we get into the game proper, just a quick mention of the guy who developed this, Edgar M. Vigdahl. By the way, Edgar Magne Vigdahl, cool name, Magne. Edgar was a Norwegian independent game developer from, Heihelmsvik. You ever heard of that one? It says Vestland County for the people that are Norwegian. You probably know where that's at. He was born July 2nd, 1963, died April 1st, 2015. Edgar was your classic hobbyist from back in the day. He started his programming career on a ZX81 with BASIC. Then he moved up to a VIC-20, and then moved from there up to the C64 before he finally rolled into the Amiga. He got an Amiga 1000, Boat, just like you got sitting back there, except not as super awesome, obviously. And the very first game that he developed on the Amiga was Deluxe Pac-Man, which we covered. Gosh, it's been a while, but not super long time ago. But we covered Deluxe Pac-Man on the show a while back. So he eventually moved into Deluxe Galaga, which it's got two versions. You've got the EC Associates. You've also got an AGA version. Most sites credit this with coming out in 95. I've read a couple places that have it listed as early as 93, but probably somewhere in the middle is usually where it lies. Again, this was coded. The graphics and the majority of the audio done by Edgar Vigdahl. Amongst the things you would have heard of Edgar for, Deluxe Pac-Man, of course. He also worked on Warblade, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. He also worked on quite a few DOS games, Windows games, including Deluxe Pac-Man, which is sort of like an updated version of Deluxe Pac-Man, which is super excellent.
It's kind of like Crap Man, right?
No, it's so much better than Crap Man. Oh my God. He also, of course, he worked on a game called Pixie with a friend. He worked on some phone games. He worked on quite a few games. He really did a lot more work on the phones and on Windows than he did on the Amiga. But of course, he earned his name on the Amiga. He did have some help on this. In fact, stuff I just found out looking into the show, Boat. So I learned a few things. The voice samples on this are credited to Julie Wyatt, and some of the sound samples were either done or entered by Dennis Wyatt. And this is something I didn't know, because I always wondered who did the music on this game, because the music's off the charts in this game. And some of his other games, I don't know if this guy did that music on those too, but I found a credit on Moby for a fellow named Yajir Lilladal, who is an actual music author. He's got real you could buy his stuff. I can't confirm that he did the music or all the music, but even he has some stuff listed from Deluxe Galaga, so I'm assuming he did at least some of the music in this. And then lastly, a few other people that get credits are someone named Odd Rune Olson and P.D. Morris, and they are credited for giving Edgar tips and ideas for this game. I mentioned there's two versions. There's no CSECS and an AGA version of this game. Did you just real top? Do you recall which version did you try the AGA version of this one?
Yeah, the AGA version is the one that's on Mega AGS, aka Amiga Vision.
Yeah.
So that's the one that I played.
I've tried them both, but I like the AGA, but I mean, they're both totally fine. There's AGA probably plays a little bit better, a little bit prettier, I guess. And so what you've got here, this is interesting. Edgar wanted to play Galaga on the Amiga, and so he decided to make Galaga. But the funny thing is, a lot of people credit, or a lot of people say he based this on Galaga, but according to Edgar himself, there's an old VIC-20 game called Star Battle, which is what this is loosely based on. I'm guessing if you called this Deluxe Star Battle, you probably wouldn't get as much attention.
Yeah, exactly.
As if you called this Deluxe Galaga. So, Bo, I know we played this way back in episode 16, by the way. Can you think about that for a minute? I don't know how many years ago that is, but my God, episode 16.
It's about 10 years ago almost.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't remember. I didn't go back and listen to the show for fear, but I'm sure it was just Dan.
Back when you're talking about those teen episodes, 0 through 20, we spend most of the episode talking about the Amiga keycaps Kickstarter, and then we talk about the game for maybe 2.5 minutes, and then we wrap it up.
That's the way you do it. Get in, get out. Don't make yourself look too dumb. So the premise of Deluxe Galaga is actually quite simple. It's a lot like actual Galaga. You're a ship. You're going through wave after wave of enemies that appear on the screen, and you try to shoot them all. All right. Sounds simple, but Edgar spiced this up in a way that Edgar spices up all of his games, with loads and loads of secrets and tons of power-ups and a store and bizarre mini games. All these things are in almost every game he did on every system. This is the way he used to operate. You'll recall in the original Galaga, you really only have the one power-up, which is to get the double ship. That's it. Edgar in this game probably has, I'm going to generously say, 20 power-ups in this game. And everything from extra shots, extra shot patterns, more shots, speeding up your ship, capturing. In this game, unlike in Galaga, you can get the tractor beam and you capture the enemy ship.
Yeah, you straight up capture the aliens, right?
Which is a crowd pleaser, obviously. You also can get different sorts of shots that aren't bullets. Everything, you can get lasers and missiles. You get all kinds of different bullet shots, and there are shields. There are power-ups that will help you, but there are plenty of power-ups that screw you in this game, too. For example, if you've got the lasers and you actually get the single or double shot, you've just screwed yourself. There are skulls that come down, and if you collect, you lose stuff. They take stuff away. Sometimes they take everything away. Of course, sometimes the things coming down are just question marks. So you could get them. They might be good, but they might screw you. So there's a lot more gambling involved in this game. Another aspect of the game that is another thing that Edgar does in almost all of his games is put in a way to get extra man. And I know you love this, Bo, because we and you talk about this all the time. You can spell extra by collecting the letters.
There's never been a bad video game made where you spell extra to get an extra life.
If there's one thing we agree on, it's that we both love collecting the word extra.
That's
in
right.
every game. Geez, before I get super, super deep, do you remember when you first tried this one out? Probably for the show.
Yeah, it was for the show.
And do you remember? Were you impressed when you played it the first time?
Yeah, I mean, the show is littered with the detritus of horrible games, and so whenever, especially
word right there.
Whenever you play a good one, it sticks with you. And I'll be darned if this isn't one of the best games on the Amiga. People talk about cannon fodder. And they talk about Lemmings. They talk about Speedball 2. Those are all great. But this game, this shareware game from this random dude from Norway, to me, this encompasses everything that I want out of a 16-bit computer game, and that it takes an arcade classic. And well, obviously, we just found out he didn't really go from the arcade classic. It takes a VIC-20 classic, and it upgrades it in a way that only the Amiga could pull off at the time of its release. In terms of all of the, because obviously, no console publisher is going to touch anything with a copyright infringing name like Deluxe Galaga. Okay.
Right.
So this thing would have had to have made its, debut on a computer platform. And what does it give you? It gives you everything that you love about a space shooter, whether it's Galaga or Star Patrol or whatever that big game was. But it does everything so well. And it gives you every conceivable option, in terms of upgrades in the shop, in the enemy variety, and everything. It's an amazing game. So this is one that I definitely remember playing early on in the show and just being in love with and wishing that every game that we played could be this good.
It's funny because on the surface, it doesn't have like what I would consider the best graphics. Or it doesn't even look that standout. It's one of those games that you really have to sort of sit down with to fully understand what you've got there. Just a little bit for the hackers or the programmers in the bunch. I found an old interview with Edgar, and they were talking about this game, and they asked him, how did he create it? And so he used, and this may mean something to somebody, but to code it, he used a program called DevPack. And he thinks he remembers making the graphics with Deluxe Paint. He did make the sound effects with a Korg MS-10 analog synthesizers that he used to make some of the sound effects. For those of you that know what that is, which I know what Korg is. I've heard of that. But
well, an analog synth is a synth that where you're, instead of having the digital patches where you're just pushing buttons to make the sounds, you've actually got like discrete circuits that you connect with real patch cables, like real 1/4-inch patch cables to get the sounds that you want. So it's like whenever you see like one of those like Wendy Carlos synths, that's what that is.
I always wondered how much money he made from this game.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, it sort of comes up. It doesn't directly come up in this interview, but he does mention that he made way more money with Warblade than he did Deluxe Galaga. So
that makes sense given the user base, the PC user base versus the Amiga user base. That makes sense.
Well, yeah. Also, boy, there was a lot of piracy on the Amiga. I know I had a pirated version of this thing like right out of the gate. This is one of the first games. I was like, oh, Deluxe Galaga, that might be fun. So I'm pretty sure that this was like heavily pirated. It is interesting though when these PD games, you always wonder like what kind of action. I've talked to people in Itch a few times that like we covered their games, and like they'll tell me stuff like, like because we always say like, listen, throw these guys a buck or whatever, but like really. A lot of people don't throw them a buck. Like
right, they make nothing. They make less than nothing because I think that there's just this expectation where well, okay. Here's the thing about these itch games too. For me, if I play a game for the show, I usually don't pay for it. But if I ever once go back and say, "Hey, I want to play this again," or if the game makes such an impression on me that I just love everything it stands for, and this is King and Balloon for me. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna give well above the suggested price because when I don't give every time, but when I do give, I like to make it substantial. So I can understand how tons and tons of people download name your own price games on itch and they never give these guys a cent. But you'd hope that everybody that truly appreciates the game and plays it more than once would throw these guys a bone.
Yeah, yeah. Like normally if I download a lot of crazy stuff like the Disaster Strippers. So like if I do an episode like JOTD or something, I don't give him money for every game, but I'll just pick one and give him like $10 or something.
Yeah.
That way I'm getting covered.
Right.
And I don't know how, did you ever, as a younger man, did you ever pay for any public domain? Did you ever
never one? No. I paid for public domain discs.
Right, but
I was paying but I was paying the guy to make the discs for me from the back of the magazine. But I didn't have a mechanism to do that. I mean, when you're 13 years old,
Yeah.
A lot of times these, I don't know, I guess it never even entered my mind. Like I would play, and the type of gamer that I am, I would play those first couple levels of Doom, and then I'd be good. I'd play
Yeah.
the first couple levels of Duke Nukem or whatever was the shareware version, and then I just move on to something else.
Yeah.
I got my fill. I didn't need more Duke Nukem in my life.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, I understand. I was just wondering if anybody's got a thought on that. Drop us a note in the comments if you paid for PD or if you're a PD author. I'd be interested to know that. Getting back to the game, so aside from the fact that yes, shoot aliens and advance, because this thing's got like 75 levels. It's pretty expansive, and the aliens come out in different. He had a way to roll out the aliens in very interesting ways to make it more difficult. He was very clever. But on top of that, this game goes in a order. You've got phases there are rounds where you just shoot the bad guys. Then there are rounds that are where motherships come out, and you have to shoot them. And when you do that, they will one or more. They will drop a colored orb. And if you collect this orb, what you've done, these are called rank markers. And when you get all the different colors, like I think that's like 7 or 8 rank markers, you'll go up in rank. That gives you more points. All right, you'll go up in rank. And also, we'll tell you on the where you put your name, initial screen. On top of that, you'll also get coins that drop. And so once you get past the boss area, sometimes you'll get, and often you'll get what's called the suicide run or the kamikaze run, where these guys, they'll come down in little waves of like 4 or 5, and you try to shoot as many as you can as they come down. And then you'll get a bonus. Sometimes you'll get the bonus round, with like in Galaga, where they won't shoot. You try to shoot as many as you can. This entire time, they are still dropping coins or power-ups or power-downs or whatever you're getting. So it behooves you to try to shoot them. And then eventually you'll warp. And when you warp, you'll head out to the store. If you've got any money, you'll go to the store. And the store has stuff you'd expect, like gun power-ups. You can take your gun up to plasma or a flamethrower or missiles. You can add armor to your ship. You can add speed to your ship. You can also spend a ton of money to unlock secrets. At the top of the screen, it will tell you secrets, like things you don't know about the game. Like, for example, the different colored skulls that come down are bad, but if you collect them all, you'll get a boost. Stuff like that. And there are tons and tons of secrets in this game, and that's a way you can unlock them like that. Sometimes you will get a drop that will take you to a mini game. The mini games are there's only 2 that come to my mind right off the top of my head, which are the Memory Station game and the Meteor Field game. In the Memory Station game, it's exactly what it sounds like. It puts a grid on the screen, and you pick different squares on the grid to turn over, and what you want to do is match them up. And when you match up to the grid, you get that item. So the different items on the screen, and there's a time limit. And so as you go through, the time limit may get smaller or greater. You can actually pay for more time, so you can have more time in the Memory Station boat. And then the other mini game is a bit where there's no shooting. You go as fast as you can through an asteroid field, and the faster you get through it, the more points you get. And so, what did you think about the addition of these games?
We do this show every week.
Yeah.
Okay. And every week we talk about we spend a lot of time covering games that are one-man operations, or maybe one man and a couple of helpers.
Yeah.
And a common critique that I have is that, these guys, maybe you'll have like a graphics guy that does a game. Or maybe you'll have a guy that really is a good coder, like in the demo scene, he does a game. And they're missing sort of they miss the point. They put this game together and you're left with something that's just not a whole lot of fun and not a very deep experience. This is such an exception where you have this one guy and he really gets it. He gets what makes video games fun. What do video game players want? They want a reason to keep playing. They want variety. They want to uncover things that they don't know. They want to have upgrades. They want to see new things. They want to have little mini big games, it's hard to think of a better space shooter. Just forget the Amiga. with the exception of Warblade, which is the spiritual successor to this game, it's hard to think of a more complete gaming experience than Deluxe Galaga. It just delivers on every single level with what I want as a game player.
So you didn't find the inclusion of, say, the memory game or the asteroid field mini games, you don't think they broke up the gameplay or anything?
Oh, absolutely. They break it. They break up the gameplay.
In a good way or a bad way?
In a good way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can definitely see both sides, because there are definitely players, and I'm sure maybe the Chud is like this, where you sort of get in a zone, and if you're suddenly struck with something that's not shooting aliens, it kind of breaks you out of that. It might break your concentration and make you perform worse when you get back into the game. But for me, I love variety in video games, and I love things that you do the same thing for a while and then you do something else and then you're back to the same thing. It again, because if you like, for example, the first time you get to that memory game, you're like, oh, that's weird, I wonder what else is in here. It gives you a reason to keep going.
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on the fact that this also supports 2-player, which is great, because you can screw over your buddy quite easily, which I'll explain more about that in Warblade. There are secrets and stuff in this that even I don't know. And I mean, it's not like I'm the mother of all Deluxe Galaga knowledge, but I will say, and here, I'm going to bring this back up, but you'll love this. There's a website out there. It's still up because I checked it today. It's called deluxegalaga.com. Right? Simple. Do you know who runs that website? Shane R. Monroe.
Okay.
The retro gaming radio guy, which is the first person I heard about this game aside from playing it, because he's a big fan. He actually talked to Edgar back in the day, and he gets thanked in Warblade. He's mentioned in Warblade in the credits. So Shane and Edgar knew each other, and Shane is probably the premier. In fact, I think he just released a video this week to get a Warblade to work on the Steam Deck. That shows you he's still in there, man. So plug to Shane R. Monroe's channel, Monroe World. But if you want to know everything there is to know about Deluxe Galaga, that's the place to go. It's easy to remember, deluxegalaga.com. So we've kind of mentioned a few times, so let's talk about it, which was the sequel to this. Now, we're going to go off track to the PC for a minute, but Warblade was the next game that Edgar did after he did Deluxe Galaga. He sort of moved up to the PC. Now, you're talking 2003. The PC got this. I have read that there's a Linux version of this, but I've never found it. So I don't know if it exists, to be honest with you. But Warblade is exactly the exact update you would expect from Deluxe Galaga. He took everything that Deluxe Galaga had and just made it better. Better music, better sound effects, better graphics. Pretty much all the same power-ups. I've read there may be a few additional secrets in Deluxe Galaga that didn't make the cut, but I having not known what they all are, I don't know. I can tell you Warblade has 100 levels, including big, huge boss fights. My son is the King Dong. In fact, this is going to be the Beat the Loot Challenge at Boat Fest. Is going to be fighting my kid on the hardest mode of Warblade. It's a great game. It's one that you can't buy anymore, and we've looked. There's no way to buy it. It's not the easiest game to find, but if you look around, you could probably dig it out, but you have to have a Windows machine to play it. Have you ever tried Warblade, Boat? I should ask.
No, I have not played Warblade before. So
it is, if you like Deluxe Galaga, you will love Warblade. I can't suggest it highly enough. To close the proceedings on sort of a sad note, I guess, but I got to go there. Edgar had a Kickstarter to make a sequel to Warblade and Deluxe Galaga, and he was also planning on porting Deluxe Galaga to the phones, like the actual, not Warblade, but bringing over Deluxe Galaga. It's a long story on how it all went down, but unfortunately, Edgar passed away before he could finish making the game. This was sort of a long, painful struggle to try to get this Kickstarter taken care of, because Edgar, it turned out from what I've read that Edgar's programming skills, which were quite fine on these older machines. In the modern world, he had more trouble doing what he wanted to do,
Mhm.
and it just didn't happen. And so we
What
will
I mean, do
never.
you the I mean, obviously Edgar passed away. He
Yeah.
passed away before the Kickstarter was completed.
No, the Kickstarter got funded. He just didn't get to actually make the game. The game never got made. It was actually he raised, according to what I've got here, the development money he raised through crowdfunding was for Warblade Mark II. That's what he called it. He only asked for $8,000, and he received $18,000.
Oh, okay.
But again, he unfortunately he got cancer, and was very sick from 2014 on, and really could never really. I mean, you can imagine trying to fulfill that while you got sick, and of course he didn't know he had cancer when he did the the Kickstarter, the crowdfunding. I talked to one of his buddies, and who actually had worked on a lot of his stuff, and he mentioned to me that Edgar was a very sweet man, a very kind guy. We had a couple kids and a wife, and was a brilliant man and a great guy to work with. So if you're interested in learning more about some of his other games, because I will say his library of games is real unique. Everything from stuff like Deluxe Galaga up to like puzzle games, and like a bizarre but awesome Pac-Man platformer, which you'd have to, that's a crazy game. I did a disaster stream, a tribute to Edgar Vigdahl. It's on the channel if you want to watch that. And you also see my kid play Warblade on there. So, just I think this is an all-timer. The Deluxe Galaga makes a lot of lists for the all-time great games on the Amiga. I think it's an easy top 10 for me. Did we get any action from the people? You got to hear from the people, Bo. What the people
Listen,
say?
man. When you play Deluxe Galaga on the Amiga, you get some reviews.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we're gonna start out with David Hearn Ryder. He says the original Galaga was ace, and I still suck at it. Deluxe Galaga AGA is a tribute to it with cool power-ups, surprises, a tax-free shop, and elevator music. Galaga taught me to get out of the way when you shoot at ships, but here, moving away means you miss the power-up. Good fun. 7 out of 10 alien flagships. Alien Breeder writes, I played Deluxe Galaga on my Amiga back in the day thinking it was a straight port of the arcade classic Galaga. It wasn't. It was a new game inspired by the original, and I loved every second of it. The AGA version is fast, smooth, and fun, with colorful graphics, solid sound effects, and decent music. The gameplay is addictive and responsive, with satisfying power-ups and a great arcade feel. Out of curiosity, I watched gameplay of the original Galaga, tried Galaga 92, which was awful, and played Galaga 500, which closely mirrors the arcade. But to my surprise, I still preferred Deluxe Galaga. It captures the spirit of the original while improving on it with better visuals, faster action, and more variety. It's not a clone, it's a tribute that actually outshines the source. Score 950 top bananas out of 1,000. Deluxe Galaga delivers the kind of fun that keeps you coming back, whether it's 1995 or today. Jocko 6502 writes, I'm going to call this Deluxe Galaga, DE-LUCKS, because money and item drops can be quite random at times, and in a game where cash is key, having frugal games can spell a quick end. Pickups can be accidentally collected when you don't want them, and the ones you do want can be impossible to get as they are in showers of bullets. You need to be powered up to progress, and dying downgrades weapons, so you are pretty much done for in later levels if you die. And I would genuinely prefer this without time limits. That said, this game is an exercise in weird noise making, butt clenching, swear jar filling fun. Highly playable with great graphics and audio, it can be a cruel mistress at times, but a hard one to put down. Not quite Galaga for me, but still awesome. 8 out of 10. PKLX writes, nice and addictive game. It was sometimes difficult to understand some of the mechanics. What are these colored orbs I'm collecting, and why does that ship steal all my hard-earned money? I'm sure that I will keep coming back to this game for short sessions. 8 out of 10. And finally, BFB III writes, whether it's ECS or AGA, or even patches for OCS/Kickstart 1.3, whether it's an early build or a final release or a community build or your build with music and effects mixed to your taste today, don't review Deluxe Galaga. Deluxe Galaga reviews you. I'm still plugging away, Maestro Vigdal. Get ready. 10 out of 10. Some stirring tributes there, Aaron, from our Discord community.
This game has got so much going on. I would feel like we weren't being thorough if I didn't mention a few more things. And some of the people mentioned them. When you die in this game, whatever weapon you had, you go to the next lowest weapon. It's actually a pretty good mechanic because it doesn't leave you out there high and dry. People mentioned that a ship would come and steal their money. That's the money stealer. Occasionally, he comes out and sucks all your money up. If you don't shoot him, you lose your money as he slowly staggers off. If you've got a good enough ship, though, you can shoot him and get more money. If you linger on a level too long, that's when the hurry ship shows up. And it shows up at the top of the screen and just starts shooting guided missiles or heat-seeking missiles. It starts off with 1, then 2, then 3. You get the picture. And eventually you've got more of those things coming down than you can handle. And we're still not touching on every aspect of the game. It's just a game that's too rich and deep. Someone mentioned remixing their own version. Built into this game is the ability to change the music. You can change the voice samples. It's all if you read the documentation that comes with it. This game has probably the most robust option menu you're ever going to find on any Amiga game. You saw it if you're watching at home when I booted this thing up. It's a ridiculous the amount of options you can change on this, and that carried it forward to Warblade as well. For closure purposes, I did look this up to see how it did. And believe it or not, this thing got reviewed by some magazines. I wasn't that surprised. Lemon gives the ECS OCS version 8.8 and the AGA version 8.4, and Lore gives it 85%. Magazines, of course, the modern magazine, Amiga Addict, number 3. I gotta have a talk with these guys, Boat. 82%. I don't know what gets 100 over to Amiga Addict. I got to talk to them.
Yeah.
They're like it's like Amiga Joker came back, and here they are. Amiga Power gave this 4.5 out of 5, and the one from February of '95 gave this a 95%.
Well, Aaron, here's the thing.
Yeah.
You can't get 100% in an Amiga magazine unless you've got parallax scrolling and or copper background. So
I'm going to read
Deluxe
the
Galaga,
review before. Yeah.
You lose out.
I'm going to read the review before I totally bury an 80. An 82 is not bad, but I think
it's not a score deserving of Deluxe Galaga, that's for sure.
And of course, there's no eBay on this because it was PD, and you can get this the full version of this in multiple places. When this one got picked to have us take a look at it, I got real excited, Bode, because this is one of the games I went to before there was an Amigos. Before I knew anyone that hardly had an Amiga, I was playing this game because I really thought it was a very clever game, a lot of fun, and it makes me happy to hear that it's aged so well over the years. So if you haven't tried this particular game or its sequel, Warblade, give them a shot and let us know what you thought of in the comments. We'd be interested to hear. But I think this one's we're going to be talking about for a long time, Boater.
Hello, I'm British Jones, and I am here to talk to you about RetroRewind.com.
Mr. Jones, it's .ca.
Oh, for fuck's sake, you put .com right here on the bloody cue cards. Do you like to tinker? Get the old tip wet with solder? Maybe just sketch your doodle. Retro Rewind has an expert team ready to fix all of your creative mistakes. Frank and his team just love how you've learned to fix surface mount components by burning a hole in your A4000 board. So if you've got a priceless treasure you've hacked to pieces because you thought you were Adrian, get it fixed right at RetroRewind.com. It's .ca.
Did you just flip me off?
Amiga News.
All right, Aaron, it's time for some Amiga news. We're going to start things off with the Pi Amiga version 5 beta. Comes to us from Chris Edwards Restoration, our buddy Chris. He says that the Pi Amiga V5 Beta 1 will be going out to testers very soon. It has 300,000 more items and stuff. And so you're going to need a 128 gig card to get all the goodness in Pi Amiga. Aaron, I know that you're a big Chris Edwards mark. Have you ever dipped your toe into the waters of the Pi Amiga?
Many times. I've had my whole foot up in there. That's how dipped I have. It's great, frankly. It's a Chris Edwards is he's a crazy man. I mean for real. And to take this on, he's double bonkers. I don't know how he has the time. How do these suckers get the time to do this crap? I barely get anything done, and I got no time. How do you do I added 128 gigs stuff. How? What? What the hell? I can't do any of that.
I'd say the number of hours he spends watching professional wrestling is somewhat lower than yours.
Yeah, but I'm gonna do that while I'm cooking and cleaning. That's how busy I am. I'm in the car watching it. So, anyways, this should be good. It says here more info as summer closes. But these have always been. I've used Amiga more than a few times. In fact, I've got somewhere in here. I've got a pile with one of the older versions on it. So if you listen, here's the thing, Boater. Let's say you don't have access to one of these misters like you got me here, which is great. All right, that's fine. If you don't have the money or never got around to getting one of those A500 minis, whatever, the Pi is cheap. Go get you one. You'll be good to go. And they'll set you up quite nicely with this. So I'm actually looking forward to the release. It's always a good time. Hopefully, no one will make Chris mad. With the one thing about this project that I'm always concerned about is when people start selling these on eBay and stuff, and everybody gets so mad. I mean, unfortunately, that's the way it is.
It's the same kind of losers that sell modded Xboxes on eBay.
Well, no comment, Bo. Move on.
Next up, Aaron, it's the Amiga upgrade you didn't know you needed. Okay. This comes to us from Hack Build Restore. And this is kind of a neat thing. You know, most of the time when people have a title like this, I'm like, you're right. I didn't know I needed it, and I still don't need it. And then I just don't watch it. But this was posted to us on our Discord, and so I did watch this thing. And what he does is this is another one of those, you know, stick your Amiga inside a little case type things. But the thing that I think is great about this is he hacks together a system in which he internally installs a GoTech. And then he codes a little gimmick that allows the GoTech display to appear as an overlay on the screen. So just like we know when you've got a VCR hooked up to your TV and you've got text overlays that say play, pause, whatever, he does that with the GoTech. So it's an entirely internal GoTech gimmick. Now, why you'd want to use a GoTech in 2025, somewhat uncertain, but if you're still old school with your Amiga emulation or your Amiga simulation, and you want to simulate that disk drive, and you want to go there, this is an interesting, unique take on this stuff. So anyway, and it's a well-filmed video. I'm not that familiar with Hack Build Restore, but yeah, I'd recommend this one, and thank you to our Discord for making this known to us.
I got questions here. So like, what is this exactly? Like, is this what hardware is in this? Is this a Pi or an actual Amiga? Like, is this just a GoTech?
No,
what am I looking at here?
So this is a Denise ITX Amiga build. So this guy a couple weeks ago or months ago, we talked about this build that this guy has done where he created a PCB from PCBWay. And then put all these chips on it, so all the Amiga custom chips, so it would fit inside a mini ITX case. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But the case lacks floppy drive support because it's too small. So instead of cutting up the chassis of the case to put in a floppy drive, he sticks a GoTech in there. And instead of and then comes up with this overlay system that allows him to navigate the GoTech.
Check it out. What's this guy's name again?
Hack Build Restore.
This guy's a beefy looking dude.
Yeah, you don't mess with him.
Did you see that guy's neck? Like it makes me feel like a Pits on That Geek to look at that guy. Good hair, you know. He's geek tough. Yeah, I like this guy. I'll have to check this video out. Good find there.
Next up, Aaron, is this is a review of the Big 100. You know, Happy has been on you for years now to cover the 50-in-1 ZX Spectrum cassette. Wisely, you've been rebuffing him. I continue. I encourage you to keep doing so. There is a similar thing for the Amiga called the Big 100. This is Goldfish on Games. He reviews all 100 of these games, Aaron. I watched about half of this, and these games are not.
He must have played these in record time, Bo, because I'm looking at this, and he's only got a 50. Oh, it's disc 1. He goes 54 minutes. So that's crazy time. It looks like we lost Boat here. Let's give him a second to come back in, everybody. So stand by. Yep, there he goes. It's never easy, everybody. Being cheesy.
I'm back.
There he is. There he is, Boat. Listen, I paused the recording cunningly, so I kind of jumped in there. So just let me keep going.
Yeah, keep going, man. Keep going.
So, anyways, this guy, he looks like he did all these games in an hour. He must have gone at like a disaster stream pace. How many discs do you know are because it says disc 1?
There are seven discs in the big 100.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so he split it into chapters.
Yeah.
So none of these look any good at all.
No, I mean, listen, I don't want to besmirch the good name of the big 100, but anytime that you have a large collection of games, you're going to get a lot of breakout. You're going to get a lot of very, very simple arcade games, and so it's. I'm not saying that I wouldn't jump at the chance if I was a kid to buy 100 games in one package, because some of them are going to provide some enjoyment, but you gotta go in there with the old lowered expectations.
I will tell you, because I mean, I know you were mocking the Spectrum 50 or whatever that was, but I went in there and looked at some of those, right? And these games look like Psygnosis Presents compared to the ones I saw on the Specky. Like, this Breakout is better than any single thing I saw when I was looking through those. They were so bad that I thought to myself, can I survive a stream of these? And the answer was a resounding, I don't think so. So I give Goldfish here credit for knocking this out. I'll have to go back and watch this too, because I never even heard of this. Did you hear about this Amiga Big 100? I don't know if I've ever heard of this.
Never once in my life had I heard about this.
All right. Good for him. It's good to know there's things out there we don't know about.
Next up, Aaron, this is not, speaking of the Spectrum, this is not Amiga news, but it's news that matters to me. Urbex Warriors, the Kickstart for Urbex Warriors is officially launched. This is a game for the ZX Spectrum Next and the PC. This game is the newest endeavor of two of my friends, Tony Warner and Stu Cambridge. I got a chance to play. I was one of the very first people, Aaron, if you can believe it, to lay eyes on this thing early in its development, way back in the summer of last year, when I shared a flat with both of these guys as part of the Kickstart event that Ravi had us over for. And I am so happy for these guys that their Kickstart has not only launched successfully, but they managed to more than triple their goal so far. They've still got 29 days to go. This is a game not unlike I would call it maybe like a sort of a Chaos Engine inspired game where you are moving through different environments, and the whole concept of it is that you're exploring all of these environments like the YouTubers do, urban exploring, but it's a deep game. You've got upgradable weapons and things like that, and so listen, the Spectrum Next is a perfect platform for this. As you can see, if you're looking at the video, the game looks spectacular. Stu Cambridge is no slouch when it comes to doing the pixel art. So I'm happy for these guys, and I'm going to be doing an exclusive Amigos interview with these guys in a couple weeks, where we're going to break down all of the development, the history of the development, all the challenges, and of course, all the important roles that I personally played in the development of this game.
You are in a unique position to answer the age-old question, I think, that has been on people's minds for years. What kind of PJs does Stu go with when it's bedtime?
I don't know. I guess I'll ask him when I interview.
What do you mean you were in his flat? I just assumed you guys were all walking around in your PJs.
No, we were nude.
Oh. Well, that answers that then. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean,
Wait,
I have
that
no
shut
idea
me
what
up,
kind of
Boat.
PJs he wears. Yeah, no idea.
You
So,
clever boy, you.
Urbex Warriors. Go to Kickstarter and search that up. URBX Warriors. And listen, this is going to be a real barn burner of a game.
You know, Boat, before we head to the next area, we should go back here for a minute because we haven't talked about this for a while, but we should probably mention it more and more than we ever do. There's a thing coming up people may have heard of because it's named after you, John Boatofcar Shawler. Tell the people what's happening in just a couple months. I mean, we're near the pay window on this thing, Boat.
Yeah. So if you are interested in retro computers and you're interested in a weekend full of good times, fellowship, good food, and living it up with your fellow vintage computer enthusiasts, why not come down to Hurricane, West Virginia for the International Retro Computer Festival? The IRC Expo is what we like to call Boat Fest. It's in its fourth big year. And we are down in the social event space in Hurricane, West Virginia. You can come for a day. You can come for the whole weekend. You can buy a virtual ticket. We are going to attempt to stream as much of the weekend as we can for those of you that are overseas. We are going to have lots of different computers set up, everything you can possibly think of. Last year, we had Naboo's set up. We had really rare Amigas set up. I know we're going to have a 4000T Mobius is bringing this year. I believe the 4000T is officially recognized as the rarest computer ever released. I think there are less than 30 that shipped worldwide. So
ever?
Ever. So you can get a chance to come down and check out one of those. ircexpo.net is the website for you to get your tickets. We'd love to see you at Boat Fest. It's always a good time. And this year we're going to be recording a live 10th year Amigos anniversary spectacular. And we have a big auction where you can bring your stuff. There are no vendors at this event, so you don't have to worry about creepy guys that don't care about your junk. Everybody that's there cares about your junk. And
your junk is of paramount importance to us.
That's right. And so we are hoping to set a new attendance record this year. And so if you are anywhere close to being in the area, or if you're as far away as Australia, which I believe is where our furthest attendee is coming from, ircexpo.net. Get your tickets today for Boat Fest 2025.
I'm really looking forward to it, Boat, as I always do. It's always great to see the usual suspects, hopefully with some new buddies this year. I know Bill's going to have the Ultra TV back.
Yeah.
And we're going to be broadcasting on it. I'm going to try my broadcast gimmick.
Can't wait for that.
We'll be doing the stupidest, most insane. Last year we had the light gun for the Coco. Remember that? I had an awesome beard last year. That's gone. But you never know, it could come back.
Maybe you should shave the beard for Boat Fest.
No, well, it's funny. That didn't get over too good, Boat. In fact, I was reviled, hated for that. But, before Boat Fest comes around, we've got some gaming to do. Should we see what we're getting into next week, Boat?
Yes, but I do want to mention, thanks to Rob Flack O'Hara, that IRC Expo is van life friendly.
That's especially if you're a big guy, the big van. That's what we like. Here we go, Boat. Let's see what we're playing next time around. Ooh, scary, scary. It's Castlevania AGA.
Yeah.
A lot better than the old one we played. That stunk.
Yeah.
That original Castlevania.
This marks the beginning of the Amigos Summer of Arcade. All of the episodes through June and July and the beginning of August have been pre-taped for your viewing pleasure. So Aaron and I can take a well-deserved break. But the Amiga content, of course, never stops. Guys, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Amigos podcast. We will see you next week with Castlevania AGA. And until then, adios.
Adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/Amigos podcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.